She just didn't jump back and say, okay. I mean, one, she's thinking about, is it worth that spanking to touch that thing? That's what she was thinking. Sometimes, we think about those things, or we think, is it going to be worth it? And sometimes people say it is. And so when they do that, when people begin to making those kind of decisions, what they're saying, Linda, is, I don't want you, Jesus. They take their part of Jesus that God gave to them on the cross, from the gift of the cross, they take that part of Jesus and they just throw him away. Just throw it away. I don't want Jesus anymore. And when we lived our lives in sin, that's exactly what we did. I'm so thankful that Jesus still comes around every once in a while and kind of tugs at us to let us remember that he's still there waiting. Because everybody has had the opportunity. Now, whether they take it or not is left up to them, but everybody's had the opportunity. When he died on that cross, he gave everybody Jesus. Everybody had a chance at Jesus. Everybody had a part of Jesus. Your decision is, do you want him or do you not? So what the Lord spoke to me was, Sister Teresa, what are you going to do with Jesus? And I got to thinking about how that when Christ came and he died for my sins, and how thankful and how clean I felt and how wonderful I felt. But then I've got a part to do. People say salvation is free. It most certainly is. You can't buy it. It's priceless. It's priceless, but it's still free. And you cannot afford to buy it. It's not for sale. Have you ever had something that you really wanted, but it wasn't for sale? Yeah, sure you have. Maybe somebody had something and you thought, I'd buy that off of them. They don't want to sell it, and you really want it, but they won't sell it. So what do? You do without, because they don't want to sell it. It's theirs. So Jesus gives us salvation, but you can't buy salvation. And the reason you can't buy it, Andrew, is because if you can purchase it and you can buy it, it doesn't mean anything. See, you can only help yourself so much, but that's all you can do. Jesus does the rest. Amen? So I can't do enough to get myself to heaven. I can't do enough to get myself into God's presence. I can't do enough to be forgiven. I can't do enough to be clean enough. I cannot do that. It takes Jesus. So when Jesus spoke to my heart, Sister Kim, and what he said was, what are you going to do with me? When things come up, and maybe somebody, and I'll speak a little bit to the young people. Surely I'm not going to have to say this to the adults, but I'm afraid maybe I do. But are we ashamed of Jesus? Are we ashamed to tell people that we work with or people we go to school with, are we ashamed to tell them about Jesus? Now, I'm sure that if every single person in here, if somebody came up to you and said to you, do you believe in Jesus, you would say yes. I don't think my young people, I don't think any of you all would deny Jesus. But then what are we doing with him, Carl, when we don't tell people about Jesus? Do they always have to ask us? Are we going to be bold enough to tell them when they're moaning about their problems, when they're groaning about their troubles, when they're saying, I don't know what I'm going to do next. This is going on in my life, and this is happening, and my children they're being so rambunctious, and they're just doing terrible things, and my husband's coming home late, and I'm afraid he's got another woman on the side, and when, I don't know what I'm going to do with my finances. When they begin talking like that, that is your perfect opportunity to say, let me tell you about Jesus. They don't have to ask you, are you a Christian? You should be open your mouth and immediately start telling them, let me tell you about Jesus. Let me tell you somebody that can save you. Let me tell you somebody that can fix your problems. Let me give you somebody that will keep you from this world, and when he comes back will take you to another place where all is joy and all is happiness, and you don't have to face any of this junk again. Are we willing to do that? A lot of us aren't. We don't want to offend. I hate that word. I have people say that all the time. I don't want to offend anybody. Well, you know what? I don't want to offend people either. I don't want to offend people. And David, I try not to. And when I try to witness, I don't get in their face and start slobbering and spitting on them and telling them, they're going to go to hell and just saying horrible things. But it's my duty to say, you need Jesus. Jesus is the one that can help you. And if they shut me down, just like the woman that tried to give the little Jesus to somebody, and he looked at her and he said, I don't want Jesus. And she said, okay. She said, I put it back in my drawer, and I went on just like, nothing had happened. That's the way we'll have to do. If I start talking to somebody about Jesus and he says, I don't believe in Jesus, I don't want to hear this stuff about Jesus, I can say, well, I just wanted you to know Jesus is your answer. And then I don't have to talk about him anymore. I don't have to get in their face and slobber and spit and, do the hacking thing. I don't have to do any of that stuff. Just have to let them know that there is an alternative to your problem. And his name is Jesus. So are we ashamed of him? Do we hide him? When people talk to us about their problems. We got him right here. And then when people start talking about our troubles, if we're not careful, we'll do this. Well, I hate to hear that. I'm so sorry. I hate that you're going through that. Why? I don't know, but I'm so sorry. And so, what the Lord spoke to my heart was, you've got to show Jesus. What are you going to do with him? Now you're saved, what are you going to do with him? Are you going to tell him, and this is many Christians, you sit right here, Jesus, beside of me, but I'm in control. People used to say a long time ago, God's my co-pilot. That was all over cars too. God is my co-pilot. Shouldn't he be your pilot? I mean, really one. They used to say that all the time. God's my co-pilot. And I'm thinking, wait a minute here. Shouldn't he be the pilot? Shouldn't I be the co-pilot? I mean, if I'm driving a plane, I don't want the pilot sitting over there and just letting me sit in the driver's seat. And, I'm trying to drive that plane or fly that plane, and he's sitting over there just kind of watching to make sure, whatever. And I'm trying to do it, and I'm going down and going around, and I'm making everybody sick. And the pilot's just looking at me, and the co-pilot is, because the pilot's in charge. Right? If you're sitting in the pilot seat, that means you're in charge. If I'm sitting in the driver's seat, it means I'm in charge. So I would rather Jesus be in charge and let me just sit over there and enjoy the ride. My husband's told me that once. I love you, baby. I guess I was trying to tell him how to drive. And one, he looked at me. Can you believe he said this to me? He looked at me and he said, honey, just shut up and enjoy the ride. And then one of his other favorite sayings is, if you want to drive this thing, I'll pull it over and I'll let you drive, and I'll be glad to let you drive. I'm like, no, baby, you're doing a good job. Just go on. Just shut your mouth and enjoy the ride. I bet Jesus wants to say that to us sometimes, don't he? Just shut your mouth and enjoy what I'm doing in your life instead of trying to get up and take over. So do we just tell him to sit right there now, Jesus? I'll be in charge, but you sit right there. If I have a flat tire, you can help me fix it. Something happens and my tire gets flat, I'll call on you. You come and fix my tire, but, you just sit right there. Church, there's so many times that we don't let Jesus take control. There's so many times that we think that we can do it because we're here and we see the situation when really we can't do anything about it at all. And Todd, we're afraid to let the Lord take care of it. I don't know if it's because we can't physically see him. But even during the time when he walked upon the earth, people still did not want to trust Jesus. And it's all because of one thing, and it's called ego. Ego. Everybody has an ego. That's why Satan declared war in heaven. Do you know what he said when he declared war in heaven, Andrew? He said this. He said, I will ascend. I will become like the Most High God. I will do this. I is ego. I'm going to do this. And I've had people tell me if God didn't move for them in a specific amount of time, they were going to do something. They were going to take it into their hands. And they did. And they were destroyed. Because I cannot do anything. God is our help and our hope. So, and you can add something to this, Carl, if you want to, or Sister Missy, or Sister Lori, or anybody, Juju. But we have to come to the point that Jesus is with us all the time, not just this little small Jesus, but it's just a reminder that Jesus is with us all the time, and we are to offer it to people. We're to offer Jesus to whoever we meet. Because you don't know who is sitting there that's in desperate need. I believe it was River. Where's River at? I believe it was River that said the other night, Sister Natasha, I wish somebody would pray for me. He was sick and he was feeling bad. And he said, I wish somebody would pray for me. We did, didn't we, River? And you felt better, didn't you? Do you know how many people sitting beside you at work or sitting in a classroom or sitting on a job? And they're thinking, I just wish somebody would tell me something that could help me. I wish somebody would say something. I wish somebody would pray for me. I wish God somebody would come by and tell me something. Because I'm in a mess. Most people walking around, guys, are in a mess. Most people are. I don't know anybody whose life is just, a fairy tale. I don't know anybody whose life is without problems and without troubles. Maybe some are worse than others. I'm not saying that, but I'm telling you, everybody has troubles. And everybody gets to the point they feel like their life is a mess. And I do not want you to raise your hand, but I want you to think about something. Every person in here, Satan has tempted to just end it all. Whether you were young, whether you got older. I don't know why I was ever born. I wish I had never been born. Wish I'd never been born. My daddy cured me of that. When I said that one time. I just wish I'd never been born. Nothing's working out right. I just wish I wasn't even here, never been born. And Daddy said, you better be careful. He said, because when God says something, or even thinks something, it comes to pass. He said, well, if God says, okay, he said, you'll be instantly gone. You'll fall over dead. Something will happen. He said, so don't get mad and say that frivolously, just you out of anger, but know what you're saying, Darlene. Well, and I tried to quit saying that. Lord's had to teach me a whole lot, Josh. But he's tempted everybody in here, and he has said, your family would be better off if you wasn't here. Your children would be better off. Your mom and dad would be better off. Your friends would be better off. Nobody would miss you anyway. If you died, who would even miss you? David, I never forget, I was about 16 years old and I got really sick. And I was a Christian then, but I got really sick. It was one of those all at night, I was up all night long by myself. Everybody else was asleep. I was feverish. I was so sick, throwing up and other stuff. And I was just sitting there so miserable. And I started planning my funeral. And I started saying things, James, like, I wonder who'd come to my funeral. I started thinking about people caring. I thought, I bet they don't come. I bet this one won't come. And Chantel, by the time the sun started shining, I was mad at everybody because nobody came to my funeral. Satan's always trying to pull our focus and our attention off of Jesus. So my question to you is this morning, what are you going to do with Jesus? You've got a part of Jesus. I've got a part of Jesus. That's why we're brothers and sisters. You've got a part, I got a part. So what are you going to do with Jesus? David, what are you going to do with Jesus? Karen, what are you going to do with Jesus? Chantel, what are you going to do with Jesus? Will, what are you going to do with Jesus? Let's not worry so much about what Jesus is going to do for us or what would Jesus do. Let's worry about what will Darlene do. What will Missy do? What will Rebecca do for Jesus? What will Tyler do for Jesus? What will Uriah do for Jesus? What will Olivia do for Jesus? What is Chloe going to do for Jesus? What's Reagan going to do for Jesus? What's Kathy going to do for Jesus? Chris, what are you going to do for Jesus? Chris says, I'm doing enough. She's rocking one and shaking one, and she's like, I feel like I'm doing enough. Guys, let's not forget to do something for Jesus. And take your little Jesus, you can put it in your pocket, you can put it in your car, you can do whatever you want to. But it's just a reminder when you see that or you feel it in your pocket, Lord, let me witness to somebody today. Send me to somebody that's in need. God, open up a door for me somehow today, and He will. Pastor Carl, come and add something to this. Are you sure? You got anything you want them to do today? Because you was on fire last Sunday. Everybody marching through the line. We was all sitting on fire. If you will, let's come on up to the altar. Those that will. Come on up.